Wow, Rick and Morty raised my expectations after Season 5's incredible Evil Morty-centric finale, and this season premiere didn't just meet those expectations, but completely surpassed them. We got a lot to talk about with Season 6, Episode 1, Solaricks. An adventure that sees this especially dysfunctional Smith family return to their home dimensions, giving us major shifts in the status quo and a tease of this season's big bad with Killer Rick. I'm your host, Ostrich Vox, and this is the Roundtable's recap and breakdown of Rick and Morty's stellar return to TV. Spoilers ahead. Just as we speculated, this episode kicks off with a parody of Avengers Endgame, with a not-so-subtle parallel to Iron Man and Nebula being trapped in space, as Rick and Morty are on the verge of death within the remains of the Citadel. The surviving Mortys have regressed into a primal state, which is played for laughs, but let's bookmark this development. These feral Mortys could easily come back down the road, maybe as trained human weapons for Killer Rick or the Galactic Federation. I hope they all have their rabies shot. The portal guns are still broken as a result of Evil Morty's tampering with the fluid, altering any and all portals to be bloodthirsty death traps. Rick equates Evil Morty's big plan to a petty "I'm quitting Twitter" announcement, to which Morty retorts that nobody quits Twitter. I think this actually may be the writers poking fun at themselves, not just for a social media addiction, but for how years the internet came up with all of these elaborate Evil Morty theories, when in reality, the team behind the show really only had like a vague idea of what this little menace was gonna do. Which, yeah, I guess he did just punch a hole in some intergalactic drywall and left the lobby, but are we going to act like that wasn't the hypest scene in the show? The gold portal? I still get chills, man. In context, this joke may also be the writers letting us know that Evil Morty really isn't worth being feared compared to the real threats that are out there. Rick is annoyed at how much fanfare comes with the title Evil Morty, because he himself knows what real evil looks like. Rick and Morty prepare for the sweet release of death. But just like how Tony was saved by Captain Marvel, here, the duo is rescued by Space Beth, who does her best MCU impression with quips that don't really land. Okay, while that is a problem in a lot of Marvel movies, let's take a moment to be grateful that they didn't go for a joke in Endgame when Carol showed up. They don't have that kind of restraint anymore. We have a new Season 6 opening. I don't want to spend too much time over-analyzing these scenes when half of them are just gonna be fake anyways, so just to save time, Rick and Summer escaping a giant squirrel, and Jerry clumsily lighting up what appears to be a space cult are the scenes I think are legit. Sorry, Butter Morty. Once they return home, Rick immediately tries to reset the portal index, but makes a crucial mistake. Instead of resetting portal travel, he resets portal travelers, sending everyone back to their home dimension. Rick gets sent back to C-137, Morty gets sent back to the Cronenberg dimension, and Jerry gets sent to a Season 2 status quo dimension, courtesy of a mix-up at the Jerryboree. Remember the Jerryboree? The interdimensional Jerry daycare from Season 2? That left the open-ended question around Jerry at the end of the episode not being the same one from the beginning? The Jerryboree that spawned the iconic Secret of the Ticket theory that stands at a tall 3.5 million views today and got referenced by the writers themselves? Yeah, bro, that theory, after 6 years, has finally been confirmed. Let's just take a moment to salute Holy God. Real quick, Rick apparently has a chore server for Summer, and we can assume Morty, that has a bunch of protocols for different situations Rick may find himself in the family in. Given that Summer seems to be pretty involved in the adventures this season, next week she's protecting Rick and Morty's bodies while they're inside a game of Roy, I wouldn't be surprised if this becomes a running gag for Season 6. We get a look at the chamber Summer checks the chore server in, and we learn that unlike Morty, who just gains trauma and criminal records from these adventures, Summer has a whole ass currency system through a Marvel Powers vending machine. Oh yeah, every file in the chore server is named Boogerades, a callback to Season 3's Morty's Mind Blowers, where Rick ran into the same dilemma.
Great, booger AIDS booger. I gotta start using real file names.
Space Beth is ready to dip out, saying she'll catch the family in another 2 years, referencing how the last time we really saw Space Beth was the season 4 finale in 2020, and she only had a small cameo in season 5, in which she denied the possibility of becoming a recurring character. Here, however, the status quo finally begins to fold a little bit as she tags along on the adventure. We get a good look at Rick's home in C-137, and it is a rough scene to look at. Not only does he have a holographic replay of his encounter with Killer Rick and a string of failed attempts to identify him, but he also built an AI of Diane, whose voice haunts him in every room of the house, reminding him of how miserable of a person he's become and how he blames himself for the death of his loved ones. No one hates Rick more than Rick. This has been a fact since the very beginning of the series, but now we're getting to truly explore that deep hatred he harbors towards himself. During this downtime, Rick obtains an upgraded version of his ship while waiting for Summer to finish her assignment and open a rift connecting C-137 to the Citadel. It's unknown if he built this ship or if it was just like laying around, but it's cooler to just say he built it, and how thematic that it comes from his OG universe. It actually makes sense for him to get a new ship at this point in the series, not just because this season seems to be acting like a pseudo season 1, as we said before, but also because the last time we saw Rick's ship wasn't forgetting Sarek Marshall. By the end of that episode, he was driving the Crow ship, and when he returned to the house in Rick Murai Jack, it was on the robot horse. So not only did they take a portal to the Citadel, but Rick's ship was already in limbo regardless. I do wonder if that old ship's gonna pop up anytime soon, especially since we do know the new ship is gonna blow up at least once. Rick also apparently set the minds of his neighborhood in a time loop, trapping them in the day Beth and Diane died. The paperboy and stylish lady, now old and decrepit. My lord, she's even walking the corpse of her dead dog. Never underestimate the power of a drunk Rick Sanchez. I'm glad he cut back from alcohol a bit over the course of the series. Obviously not here though. He's dealing with problems. Once the ship and coordinates are ready to go, Rick blasts off into the rift, having his own Steve Rogers in space moment. As he travels through the rift, AI Diane informs Rick of a pretty solid theory. If all portal travelers got sent back to their point of origin, then Killer Rick himself should have gotten sent back to his dimension as well. And with the portal still busted, he's trapped. Given that the portal index isn't reset by the end of this episode, I think we're going to have an entire season without the portal gun being active, solely so Rick can hunt down his sworn enemy. Morty's arrival in the Cronenberg universe is met with a sight that's even more depressing than the last time he's returned here. The overgrowth and vegetation has gotten worse, and the Smith household is completely abandoned. No frozen Jerry, Summer, or Beth in sight. He follows a trail of footsteps to the remains of a convenience store, where a startled Morty ends up impaling Cronenberg Jerry, who's evolved from his Viking appearance to more Mandalorian-like drip. Never thought Jerry would have a cool yet threatening aura. Cronenberg Jerry reveals that this dimension's Beth and Summer have passed away since we last popped by, as Beth got sick from the effects of being frozen, and unfortunately, Summer didn't survive the thawing process. The Smith family we spent the first half of season 1 with is effectively dead. Jerry also ponders that some of the Cronenberg civilians are actually still conscious, due to their brains being fully intact. A horrifying thought that really shows how numb this Jerry's become to everything, given that such a thought doesn't really faze him. Morty tries to lighten the mood and find a board game to play, allowing Jerry to escape and steal Morty's belongings in the process, Jerry no longer having any attachment to the son that abandoned him. The events of Rick Potion 9 ruined the Smith family, and Morty's departure only rubs salt in the wound. Although Morty tries to play it off like Rick has before, claiming the abandonment made him stronger, but it falls flat on this Jerry. Jerry discovers that Morty didn't really have anything worth stealing, and Morty catches up to his father, pleading to let him help. But Jerry remarks that aside from this conversation, his life is perfect. I'm still in that one because, ouch, emotional damage to whoever is on the receiving end. Summer and the Beths arrive at the Citadel and encounter scavengers who are already beginning to raid the destroyed city-state for parts. Beth attempts to kill one of these scavengers, only to give it a drawn-out, painful death, before Space Beth demonstrates the difference between the two by swiftly putting it out of its misery. As they help pull Rick through the rift and stall for time as he goes to save Morty, Beth and Space Beth finally have their inevitable clash of egos. Earth Beth is reasonably soured that Space Beth gets to run from their life choices, while she's left in charge to parent them. But Space Beth argues that's what the clone was for in the first place, to avoid having Morty and Summer go through the absence of a parent that she had to endure as a child. Fair point. Back to the Cronenberg dimension, Rick crash lands and meets up with Morty, immediately dropping a major bombshell on us. Killer Rick is the true biological grandpa of our Morty. Our Rick's endless hunt for Killer Rick led him to his home dimension, where he never came back after walking out on Beth. Our Rick just assumed his place, hoping that he'd come back so the score could be settled. This is hype. This is peak Rick and Morty. This is the show that I've been waiting for. The show that I got in chunks for the last 9 years. But hopefully, this premiere is a sign that this version of Rick and Morty is one that we'll see around more often. I'm not saying the one-off weekly adventures are gone for good, but more of these adventures may contribute to the overarching story. Rick believes he's tracked down Killer Rick, but is led to a trap. One reminiscent of Rick's traps and gotcha moments that we've seen in episodes like Vindicators 3 and The Old Man in the Seat, but arguably cranked up to 11. Actually, after taking a small nap while making this video, I realized that because Killer Rick was naked in the post-credit scene, or at least putting his pants on, that means this really was him. He just outsmarted Rick because he truly is the Rickest Rick. It's crazy to think that he really was right there, they almost had him, but Rick fell for the bait. This Rick really is a force to be reckoned with, one that our Rick can only imitate when it comes to being a cold, unfeeling bastard. A Rick that's gonna take everything in our Rick and Morty's arsenal to kill. The storyboarding and composition in these scenes, by the way, mwah, phenomenal work. Rick is treating this trap like a near-suicide mission, which Morty opposes and tries to take the fall for his grandpa, only for Rick to call out that he tried to do this last season. Morty stands his ground and makes it clear that Killer Rick is not his grandpa. He's not the one Morty spent 5 seasons worth of adventures with. Blood be damned! Morty also slips in the obligatory season premiere line of Rick and Morty 100 years. The two Beth's argument is resolved by Summer interfering as she rescues them from being digested, explaining that she doesn't want Space Beth to be her #1 mom or anything, she just wants her to be around more, without either mom fighting for her affection. The family links back up. We learn Morty had childproofing done on his body to survive in space without a suit, smart thinking, and Jerry is rescued from his season 2 level family. His off-screen time with them seems to have humbled Jerry, grateful for the divorce he and Beth went through in season 3, as it improved their relationship for the better compared to how they used to be. And although I doubt it, part of me wonders if their divorce was prompted by the fact that this Jerry didn't belong with this Beth in the first place. Jerry's dialogue here could also be a nod towards how seasons 1 and 2 were littered with subplots that screamed Beth and Jerry should probably get a divorce. After season 3, they definitely dialed it back, with Jerry just being a dumbass. Instead of a dumbass who constantly argues with his wife, he learned how to pick his battles. Returning back to the Smith household, season 2 Jerry isn't happy to find the predicament he's in, throwing a random potshot at Beth, but he inadvertently causes the demise of himself and the entire Earth by releasing a creature named Mr. Frundles, who Rick captured at some point because he's cute. Mr. Frundles bites season 2 Jerry, infecting him and the rest of the household, and soon the planet, with horrific Mr. Frundles energy. So just like in season 1, it's new dimension to live in time, baby! Just as gruesome as it was in 2014. And yeah, this new dimension apparently pronounces Parmesan as Parmesan, which I'm sure will be a running joke throughout the season. Oh lordy. Also, this dimension confirms the existence of numerous space Beths out there. It's not really surprising, but still very interesting to think about. Are some space Beths clones while some are the real deal? I don't know, some food for thought. portal travel's busted, we got a new ship, a new home, Space Beth promises to come around more often, and Killer Rick is stuck in his OG dimension for now. Rick did say I'll get to it when I get to it when it comes to the portal, so I definitely think he's stalling so he can track down his guy. And this episode is capped off with the bone-chilling post-credit scene where Cronenberg Jerry encounters Killer Rick. If you're hoping for a Cronenberg Jerry Space Beth pairing, I got some bad news for you, pal. He's over here striking alliances with mortal enemies. Oh, never mind. The dude's dead. Interestingly enough, Killer Rick implies he's never met a Jerry before, claiming he never got close to the concept. Given that he abandoned Beth when she was a child, it's possible he's foreign to not just Jerry's, but fully grown Beth's and Summer's as well. Maybe even Morty's. This cliffhanger doesn't spell out what Killer Rick's next moves are, although he does mention he doesn't do partnerships anymore. He works alone, implying he does have a history of working with people that I really hope is a seed of foreshadowing being planted, but we'll just have to wait and see. Stay tuned for the theories by subscribing to the Roundtable and throwing notifications on, because the fun is just beginning. Season 6 is one of Justin Roiland's favorite seasons. They've already said it's a bit more canonical, and the premiere is already following through on this promise. Drop your thoughts on this new episode in the comments down below, and keep the conversation going over on social media by following me on Twitter and Instagram at OstrikVox. If you enjoyed this video, please throw it a like, it goes a really long way. And I'll see you guys around with more Rick and Morty Season 6 content. Peace!